Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, May 26th, 2024 in the space and time continuum. And it's Memorial Day weekend. Tomorrow is Memorial Day, Monday, but it's the long weekend, so I figured I'm being a little more loose on this episode. I don't have themes going on or anything like that. I'm just kind of winging it a little bit, but here are the things that I think is important this week. Maybe the things that happened this last week and the things coming up this week. I'll start with Nikki Haley. When Nikki Haley at the beginning of this week decided that she was going to announce that she is voting for Donald Trump, which everybody is calling an endorsement for Donald Trump, I had a little bit of anxiety. Now, you know, I'm super optimistic, and you know that I think there's a zero chance that Trump is going to win the election. I still do think that. But I heard that news about Nikki Haley in the car, and I thought for a moment, okay, she's probably going to be asked to be his VP. There's probably a backroom deal made here or something like that. If she runs as his VP, will all of those Nikki Haley voters that we've been talking about for the last couple months here, who have said that not only are they not going to vote for Trump, but they're probably going to vote for Biden, will they go back to voting for Trump because Nikki Haley would be VP? And also I was thinking, it's probably very well known by Nikki Haley that Donald Trump is not long for this world, or at least not long for the political world. There are still people who believe there's a chance Donald Trump will not be on the ballot in November. There is a chance of that. I would say more of a chance than probably at any other time. Because, of course, anybody could, get hit by a bus or... Well, not really. If you're a presidential nominee, you're not really walking across streets anymore. You have Secret Service protection. So accidental death, I don't know so much, But there's always a chance that somebody could die, but there's a much bigger chance that Donald Trump could die. He is only about a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years younger than Joe Biden. But Joe Biden is in immensely better shape. Maybe doesn't look like it when he's walking, but you got to remember, Joe Biden broke his foot a couple years ago while riding a bike. Yes, Joe Biden can ride a bike. Donald Trump can't ride a bike. And, of course, mentally, Joe Biden's much healthier than Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has an immense amount of stress. Now, of course, Joe Biden has an immense amount of stress because he's the president of the United States, but his stress isn't based around whether or not he's going to lose his freedom, and by that I mean possibly get thrown in jail. He's not worried about possibly getting thrown in jail. Donald Trump is. Donald Trump doesn't take care of himself. Joe Biden does. Anyway, that's kind of just, I'm belaboring the point that there's probably more of a chance that a candidate for president may not even be on the ballot. Also, if Nikki Haley's vice president and Donald Trump dies anytime in the next 4 years, then she becomes president. Are her followers that voted for her and against Trump in all these primaries, are they going to vote for Trump because they see that there's a good chance Nikki Haley, the person that they followed, was going to then become president? Well, from all I've been gathering, from the many people that I get my information from to do this show, they say basically no. They're saying that she was just a vessel. It didn't have to be Nikki Haley. It could have been anybody that was challenging Trump for as long as she did. They weren't necessarily huge Nikki Haley fans. They were anti-Trump fans. And these are Republicans. Now, of course, there may be some who were true Nikki Haley fans that would then vote for Trump if Nikki Haley was his running mate. But then I looked at what she actually said, and I'm going to play that for you here. I'm also going to point out, because playing that for you here, we're going to point out just how stupid and hypocritical Nikki Haley is. She's just as vile and anti-American and pro-Reich, pro-Nazi, pro-dictatorship as any of the rest of them. Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, J.D. Vance, all these guys. J.D. Vance called Trump the American Hitler a few years ago. Marco Rubio called him a con man, and Lindsey Graham said he has no morals. So did Ted Cruz. And now they're all, I usually use a term here that's I'm not going to use. It involves sort of using somebody's part of their body as a lollipop. But I'm not going to say it, literally. But I want to point out that Donald Trump, it's just inevitable. He's going to be as stupid as possible. People like me, the most optimistic people you're probably going to come across. And I got to say, I'm optimistic because of the information I look into. I'm not blindly optimistic. I mean, it's backed up by good information. I will stick up for myself with that, but still, one of the most optimistic people you're going to run into as far as the political results that are about to occur here coming up in November and afterwards. Donald Trump put out an email, and of course he always, says, this is a confidential email, but, I'm on his email list. He said, there's no way Nikki Haley is not on the list to be asked to be my running mate. Now, the most optimistic person you're going to come across, that was the only thing we were worried about, is that she would possibly be his running mate. And then what does he do? He comes out and says, no way, bird brain is not going to be my running mate. I won't have a bird brain. And by the way, my friend who I've referred to quite a lot, he and I were talking on the phone, and he said, we were actually talking right after Nikki Haley made this announcement, and we were talking about that, and I brought up that he calls her bird brain, and he said, I got to say that Trump's names for everybody is kind of funny. And then I thought, yeah, but here's the reason why, my friend. I should ask him if I can use his name, but so far I'm not using his name because of privacy and everything. But I said, okay, what about your wife? Does she think it's funny? Because my wife doesn't. And I don't necessarily, and you don't necessarily. But every once in a while, when you or I think, yeah, Trump's name for people, like, he did have some funny names here and there. And just the fact that he has all these names and he has rules about it. The reason that my friend and I think it's funny is because we were 8th grade boys. And we take comfort sometimes in being 8th grade boys again. I still listen to Kiss, right? I don't do that to pick up chicks. I do it because of the 8th grade boy that's still somewhere deep inside me. I love listening to the Ace Frehley guitar lyrics. Or not lyrics, licks. The lyrics are horrible. I even thought that when I was in 8th grade. The guitar licks. So yeah, my friend and I, every once in a while, we might kind of have a little chuckle at something Trump says, but that's only because we're 8th grade boys somewhere down deep inside. People who have gotten rid of their 8th grade boy mentality, or women who have never had an 8th grade boy mentality, they don't think Trump is funny in the least bit. Anyway, got off track there a little bit. I'm going to play you now why Nikki Haley is just as vile and anti-American as any of them. Here's what she said the other day, just at the beginning of this last week, and we're going to point out how absolutely stupid that is.
I put my priorities on a president who's going to have the backs of our allies and hold our enemies to account.
Okay, these are both things that you would think she would be then going to vote for Biden. There's my dog again, very acutely sensing that absolutely nothing is going on at the front door. But he loves to bark at that, He loves to let us know, hey, there's nothing going on. Anyway. Okay, I'm gonna take a short break. I'm gonna check on what he's losing his mind over, and I'll be right back. All right, and we're back. It was actually something. Usually there's nothing going on at the door, but my mom stopped by unannounced to drop off some watermelon because our daughter's in town for summer and loves watermelon. So, thanks, Mom. I know she'll be listening to the show. So, anyway, that's what the dog was losing his mind of. Back to Nikki Haley. The things that she said here, support our allies, go against our adversaries. Trump doesn't do that. So why is she saying this? Do you think she's... Okay, let's see what else she has to say here, the couple other points she makes.
Who would secure the border, no more excuses. A president who would support capitalism and freedom.
Okay, Trump said he wants to be a dictator, so he's not going to support capitalism and freedom.
A president who understands we need less debt, not more debt.
Okay, Donald Trump ran us $8 trillion more in debt. He ran up more debt than all presidents in the history of the country combined. Okay, so I'm assuming she's going to make the announcement here that she's voting for Biden.
Trump has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times.
Okay, so you're going to vote for Biden.
But Biden has been a catastrophe.
Oh, really? Really? How's that? Do you think the moderator who was at this event then said, really? How's Biden been a catastrophe? He supported all the things you just mentioned. How has he been a catastrophe? No, he doesn't do that. So she is not stopped. She goes on.
So I will be voting for Trump.
Wow. She's just as stupid as we always thought she was. I mean, how absolutely idiotic can you sound here, Nikki? The answer is infinity. So her supporters are not going to support this. She has turned her back on her supporters. Here's what she has previously said about Trump.
Times change, and so has Trump. He's gotten more unstable and unhinged.
If you mock the service of a combat veteran, you don't deserve a driver's license, let alone being president of the United States.
By the way, the combat veteran that he made fun of, one of them, is her husband, who's overseas. I think he's back now, but he was then. Here's more.
He's not qualified to be the president of the United States.
It's not normal to spend $50 million in campaign contributions on personal court cases. And it's not normal to call on Russia to invade NATO countries.
There is no way that the American people are going to vote for a convicted criminal. He went and was trying to buddy up with Putin. Every time he was in the same room with him, he got weak in the knees.
Many of the same politicians who now publicly embrace Trump privately dread him. They know what a disaster he's been and will continue to be for our party. They're just too afraid to say it out loud. Well, I'm not afraid to say the hard truths out loud. I feel no need to kiss the ring.
Wow. That's going to be hard to take back, huh? You feel no need to kiss the ring, yet you just did. You're a vile hypocrite. You think people aren't going to notice this? I mean, you think my podcast is the only show? This was a conglomeration played on other shows. People are talking about this all week. They're going to be talking about it anytime your face shows up on a TV screen. This is all you're going to be, Nikki. This is all you're going to be. People have even been discussing, like Republican people who realize how much of a disaster Trump is. They've been saying Nikki Haley just completely blew it. She really found her voice there at the end of her campaigning. She had a great following that she could have taken with her post-Trump, because there is going to be post-Trump days. Like I said, we don't even know how long the guy's going to live. And let's go back in time. That's what we do here on the Satellite View, right? Let's go back to 2021, after the insurrection. There was a period of time where Trump was he disappeared. People kind of forgot about him. A lot of Republicans were thinking they might use that as an off-ramp. Of course, they're all a bunch of coward hypocrites, just like Nikki Haley. But for a while in 2021, Trump was like, hey, okay, I'm just going to go golfing then if nobody wants me in D.C. He was kind of gone. There is going to be a time where he is gone. A couple episodes ago, I said, okay, so right now, about 30% of the voting public is saying that they are registered Republicans. 60% of them say they'd support Trump, or did support Trump. 50% of those people have turned against Trump. Trump is left with 50% of 60% of 30%. The math is insane. But what percent does that leave? I don't know, something like less than 10% of the American voters. That's who she's trying to please to keep her political future? She just totally tanked her political future. She temporarily revived her political future when she was telling the truth about Trump. And now she did this. She's not going to be asked to be his VP, apparently. If she is asked to be his VP, she's going to get her ass kicked by Kamala in any kind of debate and the election. She's going to go down with Trump now. She is going to go down with Trump instead of be there after Trump and say, hey, I'm still here. You know what? I'm starting my campaign for 2028 today. Join me. She would have been a formidable candidate. Of course, except for the fact that she would still support a national ban on abortion. The Republican Party wants to get rid of contraception. Will the Republican Party still be that way post-Trump? Would Nikki Haley still be saying those things, in which case she would not be a formidable candidate? But you see where I'm going. Who's going to take over that side? I don't even know if it's going to be called the Republican Party anymore post-Trump, because there will be a post-Trump era coming very soon. Nikki Haley could have. I thought that's what she was setting herself up for. I think everybody thought that's what she was setting herself up for, and she had a strong coalition behind her to do so. She just blew that all away because she's an anti-American, vile idiot, just like the rest of them. It's pretty unbelievable. But I was nervous about it for a couple minutes. And then I saw her actual statement there where she said, I'm for everything Biden stands for and I'm against everything Trump stands for. Therefore, I'm going to vote for Trump. And I realized, okay, nope, she is not a formidable candidate. She's an idiot. And she just blew it. That's how you announce you're voting for Trump? You basically say a bunch of stuff that Trump screwed up on and that Biden did well on? The border, by the way, she said, no excuses. Take care of the border. Biden was going to do that. Trump told the Republicans to vote against it because he had an excuse. She said, no excuses. Trump has an excuse. I want to use it in the election. It'll help me in the election if the border stays a disaster. We need to keep everything a disaster until I get back in the White House. Anyway. All right, well, I'm kind of winging it, which means I also went way over time because I'm not sticking to really any kind of script. We have more things to talk about. I wanted to explain the ins and outs of what's coming this next week. So we just spent this first half talking about last week. Just only one thing, really. A lot of stuff has happened, including Trump saying that he's working on a plan to get rid of contraception. And then he said, I never said I have a plan to get rid of contraception. But he did say it on TV. It's kind of like Nikki Haley. You know that we have video of all of this stuff, right? So I don't know what they think when they constantly contradict themselves all the time. Anyway, when we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ins and outs of what exactly the trial is going to take place this week, the ending of the trial, how the jury could rule. It's complicated, and we're going to try and simplify it when we come back on A Satellite View. back on A Satellite View, the unscripted holiday version of the show. I have been spending a lot of time this week going through the complexities of what's going to happen with the jury in this case. Some call it the hush money case, some call it the election interference case. And I think you know what I'm talking about. I don't think I need to re-explain. I think if you're listening to this show, you have a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about. You know, the Stormy Daniels situation. I have taken a lot of time getting information from lawyers. A lot of these lawyers have their own shows or they appear on other shows. Joyce Vance, Harry Littman, Andrew Weissman, Neil Katyal, Glenn Kirshner, Michael Popak, Ben Marcellus, Karen Friedman Magnifilo, Barbara McQuaid. These are the main people that I have listened to. Katie Fang, Lisa Rubin. These are people who have been lawyers, both prosecution and defense lawyers. Some of them one or the other, some of them both. And they seem to be coming down pretty close together on this. They feel the case was really strong. They point out that when a prosecutor decides to take a case, you're not going to try and prosecute somebody if you think there's a chance you're going to lose. You have to be very confident that you have a really great chance of winning, a really, really almost perfect chance of winning. What he's accused of here, I'll say accused of, although you and I know he's guilty. And of course, the evidence in this case is very strong that he's guilty on falsifying business records. And that is a misdemeanor on its own. But why would you falsify your business records? Maybe for tax evasion. That's a felony. So he's not accused directly of tax evasion. He's accused directly of the first crime. But the first crime, of course, leads to the second crime. It's kind of like burglary starts with a misdemeanor of trespassing. You're in somebody's house that you're not supposed to be in. It's not your house, so you're trespassing. That's a misdemeanor. But why were you in the house? Were you going to rape somebody? Were you going to steal somebody's jewelry? Were you going to steal somebody's money? That's then the real crime, right? So burglary on its own is a misdemeanor. The felony comes when, like, even if you did not get as far as raping somebody or stealing jewelry or stealing money, your intent was there, right? You didn't just break into somebody's house because you wanted to stand in the hallway for a little while. You broke into someone's house because you wanted to do one of those major crimes. And that's what we're talking about here. Why did you falsify your business records? Why did you write a check and say it's for one thing when it's really for something else? Well, there's tax evasion involved. There is election fraud involved and other frauds involved. Now, there are 34 indictments here. So there are a lot of checks. Each one of those is a separate indictment. So there are 34 chances for the jury to find him guilty. The instructions to the jury is saying that if you decide he falsified business records, some of you can say, I think he did it because of tax fraud. Some of you can say, I think he did it for election interference or election fraud. Kind of like with the burglary. Okay, we've proven that the guy broke into the house that wasn't his. Now, that's the misdemeanor. Now you need to decide the felony. Do all of the jurors need to decide, oh, he broke in because he was going to rape the woman who was in the bedroom? No. What they're saying is half of the jury, 7 of them can say, I think he broke in the house to rape the woman, and the other 4 can say, I think he broke in the house to steal the jewelry. Just like here, I think he falsified his business records because of tax evasion, and then some of the jurors can say, I think he did it because of, and that led to the election fraud. And the guilt is still there. The verdict is still guilty. He did the misdemeanor with the intent of committing a felony. And we can disagree on what that felony is and still get a guilty verdict. 34 times. There are 34 opportunities for that to happen. In order for him to be acquitted, all of the jury, all 12 people of the jury, have to unanimously decide on all 34 indictments that he is not guilty. The chances of that are extremely minuscule. So people are talking about a hung jury, the chance of a hung jury. Now, all these people that I mentioned, these lawyers, they're all feeling like the prosecution is going to win and that Trump is going to be found guilty. Some of these lawyers feel more confident about that than others, but basically, I think I could say that all of these names that I've named, if you said, okay, your prediction, you have to say 100%. Do you think he's going to win or lose? I think all of these people would say he's going to be found guilty. If you're making me choose between one or the other, I would say he's going to be found guilty. Some of them might think there's only a 55% chance, and some might think there's a 95% chance. And, of course, we don't know. There could be a hung jury. Of course, the way I just explained it, you can see how it's extremely unlikely he's going to be totally acquitted. So a hung jury, that could mean that one person is like, nope, I am not going to call him guilty. Then the jury goes back to the judge and, they write a letter to the judge and they say, hey, we're having trouble here with the unanimous decision. The judge is not allowed to know which direction that is. If this one person is saying, no, I will not call him not guilty, or I will not call him guilty, the judge isn't allowed to know which direction that is. But he will give further instructions. And what I've gleaned from all of these lawyers talking about it, those instructions usually end up being something like, okay, if you're in the minority of the jury, listen to the people that you disagree with closely. I want you to go back. I want you to discuss this further. You have a duty. Because you're on the jury, you're duty bound to listen to the people that you disagree with and reconsider, because we need a unanimous decision here. And if there's still, say, one person who says, nope, I will never, ever call Donald Trump guilty of anything, then there's an evaluation, and that juror can be found of juror misconduct. You must have lied to get on the jury if your original idea is that you are never, ever going to call Donald Trump guilty of anything. You shouldn't be on the jury. Now you're on the jury, and you have a duty. So I found all this really interesting. It sounds kind of boring, maybe, but I don't know. I think it's really interesting. We're all learning so much about our legal system, our judicial system, and how much the Republicans want to dismantle it, by the way. But that's the ins and outs of what's coming up this week. Closing arguments on Tuesday. And a lot of these lawyers are saying that they think, especially since the jury had a full week, full 7 days off here because of the holiday weekend, they've been doing a lot of thinking. They've been doing a lot of deliberating individually. So the deliberations could be shortened. A lot of these lawyers that I've named here think that there is a chance that there could be a verdict on Thursday. And that also tells me that they're pretty confident that Trump is going to be found guilty. The longer the deliberations takes, the more worried I will get that he has a chance of creating a hung jury. I really don't think there's a chance he's going to be totally acquitted. Because like I said, all 12 jurors need to decide that he's not guilty of all 34 indictments. The prosecution did an extremely good job of presenting the evidence, and the evidence is pretty overwhelming. A lot of documentation evidence that backs up everything Michael Cohen has said, everything whatever his name is, David Pecker has said, and Stormy Daniels. Further testimony from people like Hope Hicks further back up the testimony of the other witnesses and are backed up by documentation. Redundancies. So very, very strong case. I think there's a really, really good chance that a week from today, we will be talking about Donald Trump as being a convicted felon. And that's why I wanted to spend some time talking about this case this week, because the whole world might be different by next weekend. The next time I do this show, there's a strong chance Donald Trump will be a convicted felon, and an even better chance the week after that, within 2 weeks, he'll be a convicted felon. He got booed hard by the Libertarian Convention. I don't know if you heard about that. The Libertarian Party had their national convention in Washington, D.C. this weekend, and Trump came to speak last night, Saturday night. And he couldn't move his finger without people booing very loudly. There's if you can find it on YouTube, there's a lot of footage. I don't know how long he spoke, but I've seen quite a lot of footage of him speaking, constantly being booed. Every word he said. And then he starts chastising them. You need to vote for me. You need to support Trump. Unless you like losing, unless you like getting 3% of the vote every 4 years, if you keep losing. If you don't support me, you're going to keep being losers. He's so great at picking up voters, right? People are booing at him and he's saying, you're stupid. You know? That's what he did to the Nikki Haley voters, by the way. And that's why he felt compelled to assure his people that, no, I'm not asking Nikki Haley to be my running mate. Should have been the thing that would have most helped his campaign. But no, you got to keep that, whatever percentage we came up with. You got to keep that 50% of the 60% of the 30% of the voters. You got to keep those people. Don't gain any voters. By the way, you need to gain, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, you need to gain at least 350 million votes, and way more than that, actually. But at the very least, you need to take away that many votes from Biden and add them to your side before you can even talk about having a chance in hell in this election. But then you're going on there saying, if you're a Nikki voter, I don't want your vote. If you're a libertarian, you're a loser. If you don't support me, you're just a loser. So just go away anyway. And then he's going on TV and somebody says, so what about contraception? Will you support a ban on contraception? Oh, we're working on a plan, and I think you're going to think it's really smart because it's really smart. We're working on a plan. I think you're going to like it. If you're working on a plan, when the question is, will you support a national ban on contraception? That means yes. Because right now, contraception is not illegal. There is no ban. So if that's the question, and you say if you're working on anything having to do with contraception, that means you're thinking of trying to ban it in some way or another. Contraception. I don't know. I'll just run in circles if I start going down. I don't know what the Republicans think they're doing, because they're digging their grave right now. The party, they're digging their grave. Louisiana actually is making the abortion pill the same as like heroin, a dangerous drug, illegal. Women are being airlifted out of, what state is it? Utah. 6 women at least were airlifted because they were pregnant and they got in a car accident. You break your ankle in a car accident when you're pregnant. No doctor in Utah wants to even look at you. No emergency room wants you there. You have to be airlifted to some state that doesn't want women to die. Nikki Haley wants women to die. That's what she said this week. Yeah. But, like I said, I was worried there for a little bit. Not worried anymore. Also, here, we'll end with this. This is genius. There's a biopic about Donald Trump. Brand new, I guess. It got a standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. That's how much the world hates Trump. One of the final scenes, I guess, toward the end of the movie, is the rape scene where he rapes his wife, Ivana, I think was her name. His first wife, the one who's now dead and he buried in the golf club so that he can have reduced taxes by making it into a cemetery. He just basically put her body, buried it, and then just like didn't even really mark it. It's just in overgrowth right now. Anyway, that woman, he raped her. She said it in a divorce document of some sort in 1989. She tried to walk it back and say, I didn't try to bring him to court about it, but she didn't say, no, it didn't happen. She just said, I wasn't going to try and convict him of rape. I'm just saying he raped me. Then on top of that, the reason he raped her, I'd never heard this before, but this movie depicts it, and apparently it's true, is because he wanted to get hair transplants. So his dad was bald, just like my dad and me. So he was probably going bald in the 80s, wanted to get hair transplants. And his wife said, oh, hey, you should go to my guy, my plastic surgeon. He did. And there was some sort of snafu that ruined his hair plans. That's why he got so mad at her. Apparently, he threw her up against the wall, held her hands behind her head or back, and started ripping her hair out. And then he raped her sexually. Raped her. I don't know. I hadn't heard of this biopic, but he's suing them. So he's bringing more attention to it. He's like, I don't want anyone to know about my hair. He's the one who's pointing it out. He's helping the biopic get more popular. Okay. Yeah. What a genius. What is he? Whatever. I can't remember. My brain is only half turned on because it's a holiday weekend and I'm trying to relax a little bit. But we've gone overtime again. Man, I don't even know how long this show's going to be. So we should probably wrap it up, right? Next week, hey, maybe we'll be talking about Donald Trump being a convicted felon. Right. That'll be fun. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Well, you're probably listening to this even after the holiday or maybe on the holiday, but I hope you're having a good holiday if you're listening to this tomorrow, which is Monday, which if you're listening to this on Monday, then it's today. But where I am in the space and time continuum, that is tomorrow. Of course, we keep getting confused about the space and time continuum on this show. Anyway, hope you had or are having or are going to have a nice Memorial Day. And of course, remember what it's for as well. Our veterans who have sacrificed the big sacrifice to defend our freedoms. We will speak at you next week. Thank you so much for listening.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.